All right. Happy New Year, everyone. This is the editor product UX sync for the first work week of the year, January 6th, 2021. So I don't have much on the product side that I really want to highlight. That's more important than the topics you've already listed in the agenda. But I did want to just call out that I do have an opportunity canvas review next week. Scheduled, I believe, for Monday evening, my time. And that's to cover the rich text editing architecture that we've been proposing for months and talking about, and sort of formally present that to product leadership and design leadership. So I'm excited to get the feedback. I don't expect it to be all that controversial, or I don't expect them to disagree that we should invest in this. But it'll be good to get the feedback and get sort of the official go ahead. I'm excited to sort of show our work, and I'm sure that will be recorded, and we'll share that in Slack when it's over. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michael for design stuff.
So I guess the first one is actually more of a UX research one, but the solution navigation for Top Nav, I wrapped that up on Monday. So please review that issue and like the findings from there before I kind of share it out more publicly. So I pinged Catherine, yourself, Eric, and Marcel and Roman, and just some feedback on the points there would be good. And then if it's cool, then I'll publish, let other people know about it, its existence. Yeah, I guess the tough part for that for me was just like trying to formulate the findings into insights and like just shaping the words. So yeah, I think it was like Christmas time. I was like slow piecing sentences together. So yeah, after the break, I was surprised, like, oh, the words go like this. So that was good. Um, I need help with one thing, Eric. In our last chat with Roman and yourself, there was like a point that Roman mentioned that I should start looking into for this for the editor, like editing kind of like flows. Some but I couldn't find it in the meeting notes, and it was like some kind of not a think big thing, but it was like thinking with the roadmap of what things should look like, but I forgot exactly what that was. So if you could remember what we talked about, that would be great.
Yeah, we don't record those either, do we? We talked about, I'm looking at the agenda now. Hmm. Feels like a year ago. I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm sure there's some vision work on it. Probably was related to the rich text editing and like um, maybe the toolbars, but I'm not super confident in that answer. So I'll have to go back on the agenda and jog my memory a little more.
Cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. With the solution validation stuff, I was reading through the insights that you put in the issue, and it all looks great. I didn't actually click through all of them yet in Dovetail, but it feels pretty. It feels like we have a pretty clear path for the user menu, which I think looks validated pretty clearly, that we can improve the menu options in that user dropdown. And I think that would be a great thing to pick up in 13.9. I think that my request would be over the next week or so if you and I could collaborate on making very clear, like, epic and iterative steps towards getting to the consolidated menu, because I'm not sure if we'll have room to pick that in 13.9, but in 13.10 I think that should be our main focus. It seems like we should do that. It does seem to help with discoverability and reduce the overhead when you combine the project and group menu items. If you feel confident enough in the solution to start writing out those proposals, we can work on that over the next week or so and start picking those apart. Maybe there'll be some technical discovery or issue refinement or something that we can do in 13.9 to make sure we're set up to hit the ground running in 13.10.
Cool. That sounds good. Yeah, I'll create an epic for that. There's probably finer details that would require a little bit more refinement, so that's good.
Cool. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, I also read through them and I watched the different video clips as well. It was very interesting, the feedback that was coming in. I personally agreed a lot with what they were saying about how kind of reveals basically what was under more, like you kind of see more of those options all at once, which I thought was interesting. Because what I was noticing in the study that I ran, which was just basically a benchmarking study, it was just see how people are interacting with the top nav bar, if they are interacting with it, if there were any challenges they were running into and things like that. And what I was just kind of noticing going through that study is that depending on what they needed to do, it was kind of like hovering over projects or hovering over groups or kind of going back and forth and then remembering, okay, I'm looking for a group, so then I'll go to this one. It's kind of like when I was thinking of that study and how they kind of go back and forth, and then if it's not in there, okay, maybe I'll check under more. It did kind of make sense, like maybe they can just see all those different options in one place and think through the action that they're trying to take instead of kind of clicking through all the different options, thinking about the task again, and then clicking through again. So that was interesting to see between the two studies a similar pattern coming out. And since my next point was about this as well, I'll just continue on with some things that I had noticed. And something I had noticed was around just the different types of search. I think it'd be interesting to, I guess, observe this more naturally in a setting where they're not completing tasks that maybe they don't do in regular time. But they definitely had to think again about, okay, am I trying to search for something at the project level, at the group level, or is it global? It's kind of like an active thought about where to go. And then sometimes they would go to one of those drop downs and then remember, oh, I can only search for the group name or project name here. Let me go to the global search. And or they would say, okay, now I'm going to go click on explore projects and then do the search on that page. I felt like there were kind of a lot of different paths leading back to one spot or another. So I do think exploring this consolidation path will be really interesting. That's something that came up. And then I guess the last thing around search was, I don't know if this is a specific task or if there's something that applies more broadly, but searching for the GitLab.org group in particular was a very difficult task. One, it's something that they don't often do, but they kind of had to think about, okay, where to search for it. They go on the search page. They can't find the project name there, so they try to sort. Maybe I sort by name, or I try to trace my steps back in some way. So there was just something around the search being off that kind of showed up, I think, in both studies. So it was interesting to see. But yeah, so I also have shared the dovetail findings here. Feel free to read more into that, but I'm not sure. Michael, maybe we can talk about this in our next meeting, kind of how you'd like to go deeper into these findings, or if there are any parts of your study that you thought you might want to compare with my study, just let me know. Or we can focus more on where to go from the solution validation. So from the things that you would learn, how to break it down into something that we can start to iterate on. Just let me know how you kind of want to navigate this. Okay, I didn't mean to say navigate, but I said it anyway. But yeah. And then the last thought there, was around the breadcrumb. I'm not sure if you saw that insight, Eric, around the breadcrumb navigation, how that was favored by the participants in the solution validation, but then there's some concern about introducing that type of navigation. It was interesting because in the benchmarking study, there was a task where they needed to switch from an issue board in one project to an issue board in a different project. And so kind of like half of them thought to do that by clicking back to the group breadcrumb. So the group name, click the group name, go to the group overview page, find the project list and access the project from there. And then like the other half were thinking to just click on your projects and search for the project name. But in either case, there were just some of them where the feeling was that it makes sense the way it currently works, but it kind of could be more efficient. And I haven't really landed on what could make it more efficient, but so I have that same question as Michael, where it might not be the breadcrumb navigation, but there's something that could be optimized there. So I thought that was interesting too. Okay, that was a lot all at once, but those were my thoughts.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing that we can probably tee up as our next big exploration, well, two things. One would be the left sidebar navigation information architecture. I'd like to get to that once this is wrapped up. And then the next would be that that question you were just asking about whether breadcrumbs are the right way to traverse projects, but like when and how and if we should preserve the context as you're switching between them and how to make that more efficient. I don't disagree with your conclusion, Michael, that this is potentially not a pattern we want to introduce. I think that there's enough evidence that that's like not going to be consistent and reliable enough. It's also potentially relatively like unintuitive is the wrong word, but like hidden. You know, it's not. It's something you need to discover. So it's even as the primary way to do it, it might not even be the best way. But I'd like to keep pushing on that and see if we can solve the problem, because the problem is real, as you just described. Like people do have problems with this. I have problems with this. Yeah, I think it's definitely a big one to tackle next.
Yeah, and I will say that so for the left sidebar, so I'm currently now in the process of documenting the findings from that group level test, and then we'll run the project level test. So I plan to get that done in this milestone as well. There was also the ops study. I kind of need to take in what we learned from the ops study. But basically after that top navbar benchmarking study, it seems that the left sidebar is kind of the hot spot of everything, because while it was a study that was conducted with experienced GitLab users, similar to the solution validation, the top navbar was more straightforward. The feedback was kind of like, yeah, you know, sometimes it took me longer to get to where I needed to go, or I knew I needed to find snippets, but it was hidden behind either more or this plus sign, but I eventually found it. It didn't have the same sort of challenges that I've heard about the left sidebar. So that's something that stuck out to me about this study. So the next focus of the left sidebar will be more challenging and very important, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I saw the discussions on the operations one related to the study and the findings there about the fact that the tests they were running showed like a concrete and clear improvement in bringing some of those items out of the left side or out of the operations menu into the left nav at a top level. So yeah, taking what they learned there with whatever you benchmark on yours, I think there's a lot we can do to improve the experience there, but it's gonna be a multifaceted conversation.
Yeah, because I think in the ops study, it was basically kind of like, okay, so this proposal to move items out, we can move forward with that. But the task success rate in the study was much lower than anticipated. So that just pointed to even more problems, like in a general sense. So that's something that I'll be able, now that I got this top nav bar study kind of squared away, that I'll be able to dive more into that. So we'll see.
Very cool.
Well, and I think Michael.
Oh yeah, there we go. He snuck another agenda item in there. Go for it.
Yeah, so the last one is solution validation for settings. I think there's already a few solid ideas from our group around where we might want to take this. So for the next couple of days, I'm just going to break that down to see what we can do around solution validation, like if we can get some stuff done unmoderated versus moderated, and whether that would be sufficient. So I'll be filling out those issues over the next few days and pinging you both on that so that I can get some feedback.
That'll be helpful. That's also another area for benchmarking. I was just looking at our OKR list, and I added a couple boxes related to navigation, but then there's also the settings area as well. We're very busy, but we are making it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I think with the benchmarking, it's going to be interesting because this might be a time when we run a little bit with our instincts and then see if our benchmarking fits. So when we create our benchmarks, I guess we should try to be super unbiased because we'd probably be biased by the time we get to like stating what our benchmarks are.
Exactly. And I think it's in the case of navigation, we at least have a lot of feedback. So we can't be, well, we might be biased by feedback, but we can't be too crazy like unbiased. And we know what the problems are. The benchmarking is kind of like seeing it in action. So our solutions come from somewhere at least, which makes me feel better. Yeah, but that's it for me today.
That's it for me too.
Yeah, great. As always, appreciate all your efforts with research and all these user interviews and collating insights and things like that. It's really helpful, and yeah, I'm excited. I think we have a lot of great work to tee up in the beginning of this year, and I'm going to be working on 13.9 planning in earnest a little bit more the second half of this week. So if necessary, I'll ping you in issues and ask for any additional links and justifications or any design input that's needed. But I think we have a pretty solid backlog to work with now. So start executing.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that as we're getting more of these insights kind of pulled together, we either can maybe make a deck or something to kind of play the story out a bit more and highlight what changes might come out from it, or maybe an epic or just something that pulls them all together towards the end of the quarter/month, which is basically the same thing right now.
Oh, yeah, it
but
is. Wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking as I start to get all these different insights, and then Michael's as well. We can put them into something that tells the story a bit more cohesively.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if a deck or maybe even like I don't know, we should find a way to communicate this. Maybe it's even in the form of like a group conversation or something like that, where we can just combine everything. Maybe, you know, show what we have shipped, show what we plan to ship, what are the outcomes that might be valuable. I think there's many people that are interested and would be would appreciate a sort of summarized view of this, and potentially a venue to ask questions. So I think that sounds good. I did just remember one thing. Michael, I pinged you in an issue that came up related to the new visual pipeline editor. And some, you may have seen the comments. There were sort of a pair of issues. One related to making it like prompting users when they come to the web IDE and they're trying to edit the CI file that we have a pipeline editor. And then the other was like eventually making it the default way to edit a CI file. So there's some great conversation in those issues if you want to take a look, but the gist of it was we're reopening this discussion about like if you have multiple editing options on a file, what's the best way to present that to users? Is it a combined split button where you click on it and it shows you 3 different options, or is it we pick a primary CTA and then find a way to show secondary options? So if you could just keep that on your radar. I don't think we need an answer today, but it's coming up again. And I know we talked about that a lot with the static site editor, and we did some preliminary like ideation and stuff. So it's relevant again.
Cool. Sounds good. I also noticed there were some other issues out there that floating, and someone called the normal editor and the normal editor, and then the other one is the web IDE. So
Yeah.
I guess everything is resurfacing and stuff for 2021.
Yeah, the normal. I remember that one, the normal editor, which is a great way to describe it. Yeah, anyway, I think that's about it for me. And I'll let you carry on with your days. And I'll chat with you all next week. And if you're not, or sooner, if you're in the social call tomorrow morning, my time. So I will stop the recording, and thanks for joining. Talk to you all soon. Happy New Year again.
Happy
Thank
New Year's.
you.
Bye.
Bye.